Welcome once again to the Off the Cuff Podcast, the podcast that plays out more like a weekly radio show. I'm your host, Big Jefe, flying solo for the third week in a row. My co-hosts, Dawn and Ulika, are dealing with some personal issues and things that they need to do, and shall be back soon with us. Today's topic will be if you could go back to a specific year and time, what year would that be, and would you stay? I'll be sharing my answer with you all a little later on. But before we get into that, I have a very special notable death this time around. So last weekend on Saturday, September 10th, a good family and friends of ours lost their baby boy just 2 days after he was born. Hudson Charles Griffin was born on September 8th, 2022. But due to overwhelming health complications, he passed away just 2 days later. I just want to take a moment to say to his parents, and who are also our friends, Jen and Charlie Griffin, that our hearts, thoughts, and prayers and deepest condolences go out to you and your girls, your family, your friends, as you go through this very painful time in your lives. It's not something that I can even imagine, being a parent myself. If you ever need anything, just know that the Cologne family is there for you always. And I mean that with all sincerity. That's tough. But yeah, it's I can't imagine that. That's just so heartbreaking. I'm still heartbroken for them, and couldn't ever imagine the pain that brings. No parent should ever have to go through that. And from death, I shall move on to birthdays, and I'm going to do birthday shoutouts.
Pretty smooth, Beavis.
Some birthdays I have are Sean Carpenter had a birthday yesterday, September 17th. My niece Crystal's boyfriend. Very good guy. Met him earlier this year, I believe. And hopefully he's had a chance to listen to Off the Cuff. He said he would. So I figured I'd give him a shout out for his birthday. He turned the big 18 years old, and that's awesome. Congratulations on that. And hopefully he goes on to do great things in life. I know he graduated high school this year, so that's awesome. And September 18th, which is today, Shar Bueller, who I hope I'm saying that right.
Bueller.
Was my daughter's basketball coach at New Lothrop, where my daughter goes, and she's also a fellow parent of a friend of hers as well that goes there. So happy birthday to you, Shar. And a friend of mine and fellow veteran Jeff Klink has a birthday September 19th. Happy birthday, Jeff. My namesake. He's helped me through a lot of things since we reunited, I guess you could say, on Facebook. He saw that I was having my issues online going through some rough times, and man, this guy's always been cheerful since I've known him in the Navy. So hopefully he's having a great time, or will have a great time on his birthday, having a good time in life, as he seems to be. And also another family friend that I also found out, her birthday is September 20th, which we have known her for a while, and I never knew her birthday was September 20th, which I'm sorry to say that, Amy, but Amy Henley. And so happy birthday to all of you. So now I'm going to move on to the topic that I have chosen for today. And I want to give credit where credit is due, because I did bring this up to my wife, this particular topic, out of the blue. I just think of stuff sometimes to talk about. So my mind is like it races a lot. I think about a lot of different things. I don't know if it's ADHD. I don't think it is, but it's just a lot of things going through there, right? And a lot of times I don't want to talk to anybody about it, because a lot of people will be like, damn, you sure do think about a lot of shit, So I just keep it to myself most of the time. But this podcast helps me bring it out, right? So I figured, like I said, I'm going to give credit to where credit is due. And my wife said, why don't you talk about what you told me the other day, which was, going back in time to a specific year. And would you stay there? And well, yeah, there is a specific year I would go back to. And that year, and maybe I'm stuck there. Maybe some people will say that that's not a good thing. Well, and maybe it's not. But let me tell you my side of it. And, hey, your opinion is your opinion. So whatever you think of it, that's fine. I'll accept. But doesn't mean I'm going to care about what you think. I'll be blunt with you, but I'll accept it. I'll respect your opinion. I just won't really, I'm not gonna change myself. You know what I mean? Anyways, the year that I would go back to in my head that I thought about would be more than likely 1984. I think 1984 would be the year that I would go back to. And it would be prior. Yeah, it would be 1984. It wouldn't even be prior to me turning 9, but I mean, it would be about when I turned 9 years old. I was 8 until about April 17th, which is my birthday. And then I turned 9 that year. The 80s in general, when I was 1980, I was 5, right? 1989, when that decade ended, I guess you could say 1990 is actually when it ends, right? But 1989, I was 14. In 1990, I turned 15, so I guess you could say 5 to 15 years old. That whole decade was awesome, if you ask me. However, right about the midway point, 84, 85, is when it got harder for me. And I thoroughly remember it. I guess you could say vividly remember it, and if I could stop time at that year, the question is, would you stay? If you had an option, right? Say you ended up at that year that you wanted to go back to, or that you could go back to, would you stay? I think it's a great question. And yeah, I would. I asked my wife the same question, and I don't know if she actually even picked a year that she would go back to. I think she said a year, but she said she wouldn't stay. She would probably go back, kind of like Back to the Future, and then kind of go back to this year. And I think most people would probably come back to the future. And maybe there is an issue with me, but I wouldn't come back. I know that sounds kind of bad because I have what I have now. I did so many things since I was that age, right? That's, 1984. I think I told my wife 1982, to be honest, 40 years ago. But yeah, I would change that. 1984. Was that 38 years ago?
You old dog.
I don't math well, so. But yeah. So the reason being, in 1984, or up until 1984, I should say, my mom and I and my sister, and I, because my dad had left us when I was about 2 years old. So it was my mom and my sister for all that time, and you don't really think about that when you're a kid, right? It's just you, your mom, and your sister, and whoever's there, right? Grandma was she wasn't living with us, but she used to be. She was very prominent. She had a lot of grandchildren, so. But when she was there, she was awesome to be with us. She was just always giving us her love and cooking and cleaning and helping my mother, and my mother was doing everything. I mean, it was just, I mean, it was a fairy tale. I call it a fairy tale life until I was about 10. Until I turned about 10 years old. Then we moved into a neighborhood of crackheads. And around that time anyway, 84, 85, if you watch Stranger Things, you see like, Reagan, Bush, that era. And a lot of people love Reagan. I don't think he was a bad president. I don't think I have any really real opinion about politics because I really wasn't into it, and I'm still not a big politic person. And I wasn't back then either. So 8, 9 years old, I didn't care. But I remember a lot of things I watched on TV. I used to watch a lot of TV. I love TV. I still love TV. I love movies. And it's just, I had a fairy tale life, man. I had a fairy tale life. My mom did everything with us, even though she was broke all the time. She took us to the beach. I grew up in the Bronx, so it was rough. But she took us to Orchard Beach. We had like those those public buses. So many people. Everything was hot in the summer, of course. It's supposed to be hot in the summer, duh. Sandy, I hated the beach. Yeah, and I'm weird. I hated the beach. My mother loved the beach. She loved the beach. She still loves the beach, but she doesn't really go to the beach anymore. But we used to go to the beach. We used to go everywhere, man. She took us to parks. She did the very best she could to, have me and my sister and I have a good life, and my father's half sister, which just called her his sister, because I never even knew it was his half sister, to be honest. When you're a kid, you don't really think about that stuff. You just, well, at least I didn't. I just said that was my aunt, and she is. So, and she's a beautiful lady. To this day, I just think of her as my second mom, because she just always treated me as her son. She always treated me as her son. And she had her own daughter to raise, but she always picked us up on Sundays. We went out to wherever, ride Playland. She took us on the rides and stuff, and and just, I think that I remember just going to, my best friend's house, and every time I had a friend, like a best friend or whatever, it would be a family friend that my mom, like, basically, I would have a friend and she would just be friends with the parents of my best friends. And I feel that as an adult now, it's almost like I have the same knack that my mom has, the same trait, that I can make friends easily with anyone like she could. And to me, that's pretty awesome. I love it. I love that I could just draw people in. I feel like I can draw people into like a Jeff's world, and not saying I'm special or anything. I think that, it's just a good connection thing. And I think, it's got a lot to do with that other person as well. If I find them interesting too, they're drawing me into their world. So then we draw each other into each other's world. For instance, I have a friend now that is also a parent of Xavier's teammate on his football team, named Ryan, and he's awesome, and his wife is awesome, and Adelia, and she's, and we just all my wife, myself, and them, we just all connected, and I think that's just so natural, and and I just connect with so many of my listeners too. Actually, it's great that they listen to the show and they get to know me that way. And we talk, and I know that your listeners are probably saying, like, what's going on here? And like, why is he talking about this stuff? But it's, and maybe some people are like, oh, well, that's life, Jeff, get over it. Yeah, it is, but it's good. I'm the type of guy to analyze it, I guess, and that's what I'm doing here. So, but getting back to that year, 1984 also brought out so much good music and so many good movies and TV shows, and just things that we did back then was just so fun, man. You're a kid. When you're a kid, you have nothing to worry about, but you don't realize that. You think, oh my God, I got school, I got tests, I got this, I got that, I got responsibilities, but you don't. I mean, you do and you don't. You got school, I mean, I'm not trying to minimize the kids now, they probably got more stuff to worry about now than we did. And that's precisely why I say I miss the 80s. It just felt like it was a simpler time, and I just wish I can go back. I know, I'm stuck. But I don't mind being stuck sometimes, like the music takes me back, and I just love going back there sometimes and just staying there for a little bit. But the part that I added to this question, which is, would you stay? I think that's probably what people would be like, dude, really? You would stay? Knowing that you did what you did in the future. Like, I went to the military when I was in my 20s. Well, actually, I was in my teens. Met my wife in my 20s. Had babies in my actually, I had babies in my 30s. I wouldn't change that. But yeah, if I stayed, I guess none of that would have happened, right? But that's the thing. I wouldn't know that any of that happened. But I guess knowing now, if I'm going to analyze it, would I stay? And maybe there's a deep thing there, that I have to think about. But it was so powerful. And the things that I think about now, and that I feel, some days they get so dark, and I just feel like, yeah, I would want to go back and just stay there and not, I mean, this goes deeper than that, and I don't really want to get into all that. So I will probably cut this one short, because I didn't think that this was going to go into that deep. But I'd like to hear from everybody else about what year they would go back to. And this way we can talk about that. And I think I'd bring this up again when we get Ulika back and Dawn back. I want to see what years they would go back to and if they would stay, and that's what makes it an interesting topic. But yeah, kind of like the movie Back to the Future. And what's funny is Back to the Future, I think, came out in 1985, I want to say. Let me look that up real quick. To the Future. Yeah, it was a 1985 film. Back to the Future 2 came out in 1989. But Back to the Future came out in 1985, which is funny because if I stayed in 1984, I wouldn't have even seen that movie. So, yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I learned to ride a bike that year, or was it the year after? No, it was that year. And then, yeah, it was that year, because I was 9 years old when I taught myself how to ride a bike. What else did I do that year? I mean, it was just a colorful year. Like, people were listening to Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, and there was always color in the clothes that we wore. Boy George, Culture Club. It was always like popular music. It was always like bubblegum type days. All that stuff was so popular. And in my area, I wasn't in the hood yet, but I was still in the Bronx, and we had rap, and so, but it was like, tamed rap where I was. It was like the Rapping Duke at the time.
So you think you're bad with your rap? Well, I'll tell ya, Pilgrim, I started the crap. When you were in diapers and wetting the sheets, I was at the Ponderosa rapping to the beat. Da ha da ha.
I don't know if you guys remember that. That's really old, by the way. They had Rock Me Amadeus. I think that came out back then, but maybe not. Maybe that came out a little later. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of mixing years. Let me see. Rock Me Amadeus. I love that song. I don't know if you guys remember that one. Rock Me Amadeus. All right. You know what I just did? I typed rock, and it didn't let me finish. I guess I hit enter too soon, and a rock came up. Like rocks, pictures of rocks. Oh, man. Rock Me Amadeus. Oh, yeah, Space Jeff. Amadeus. When did that go? That was by Falco. I don't know if you guys remember Falco, but Rock Me Amadeus. And that was 1985. So actually it had not come out yet. Who knows? Maybe I would go back to 1985. But 1985 was the year that we did move into the bad area. So I don't know. But it was still kind of good because I hadn't experienced the badness yet. But let me tell you a little bit about that year. I mean, man, I remember that year being the year that I realized I can't really go outside as much because of shootouts. I actually did that summer get caught up in a shootout. I was walking back from a store that my mom had sent me to down a little hill. And I looked up and I saw my mother at the window of our 4th floor apartment that we had moved into that year. And it was 4th of July, and I heard something that sounded like cherry bombs, you know. Bomb, bomb, pop, 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 pop. And I'm walking, and I'm thinking it's just firecrackers or whatever, cherry bombs, whatever they call them. And then I see somebody running. I see people running, but I don't think anything of it. I look at the window, and my mom is like, what I thought was waving. So I waved back, like saying, "Hi, Mom, I'm almost home," you know. And it was my mom and a friend. And they were really, what they were doing was they were saying, "Hurry up," you know, kind of like motioning, hurry up. They weren't waving. They were motioning, hurry up. And I didn't know that. So I just kept walking. I didn't run or jog or anything. I just kept walking. And then I got to the building, and I did remember seeing somebody with a white T-shirt, long white socks. That was a black guy running past me, and he had red liquid running down his leg, which now I know was blood. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. So they had shot him. And so anyways, I got upstairs, and I said, you know, here's the milk, you know, that you sent me for. And my mom just hugged me, took the milk, put it down, hugged me. And I said, "What's going on?" You know, and she told me, you know, they were shooting out there. And thank God nothing happened to you. And I was so worried, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. So yeah, that was my first time that I was kind of like caught in the middle of what I call the shootout. And that's when I realized, yeah, this is a bad area, and I should stay home and watch more TV. And so that you know, yeah, there was times also when I also went to school one morning, and I found what I thought was a lot of money, but it wasn't. It turned out to be a dollar bill. And it was rolled up, kind of like the long way rolled up. And I went home, and I said, Mom, it might be $100, you know? And when I unrolled it, she was like doing her hair with the curling iron, you know? And unrolled it, and white powder came out from it, and I dropped it really quick. I said, what is that? She said, take it outside, you know, throw that away. I said, but Mom, it's money, you know. She said, just throw it away. And so later she told me it was not, that the powder was drugs. It was. So yeah, and I started learning little by little that you don't mess around with things you find. You don't touch anything. You don't talk to anyone a certain way. You don't, you know. We had a mailbox that I used to love to go check. You know, kids always love to go check for mail, right? I mean, my son goes out there every time. Can I check for mail? I send him out to check for mail. I used to go check for mail nearly every day, and went out there one time, and a lot of the drug addicts used to hide underneath the stairs. I used to call them the people under the stairs. I'm not sure when that movie came out, but I know that that's what I called them. And the mailbox next to our mailbox was slightly open, and I saw baggies and stuff in there, and I saw powder, and I saw a lot of things that they had in there, maybe needles, whatever it was. And I kind of knew, you know, that's not to be messed with. That's probably their supplies. So I would look at it and kind of gulp, and just run back upstairs, When I turned around, they would be looking at me with their bulged out eyes or nod at me or whatever, and I would just keep walking as if I saw nothing. So, things like that would be a little bit nerve-wracking, you know. By the way, that film did not come out till 1991, The People Under the Stairs. But, yeah, that's what I refer to them as, The People Under the Stairs. But, later on, you know, when I was 12, I think we stayed there until I was about 15. So about 5 years we lived in that neighborhood, and then we moved out about 2 blocks up where they had renovated this area that this block had gotten all burnt down. It was a bad fire, and they renovated that area, and my mom finally was able to move out. And I thought we were moving far away from this place, but we only moved 2 blocks away. But it was nice, renovated area, you know. And then 3 years after that, when I was 18, I was able to go to the military. But that was my life. So what I was thinking was, 1984 was just a perfect year where I could just go back and live that fairy tale. Anything before that and up to that was, that's why I picked it. So would have been but anyway, when I was about 12, I remember that's when the gangs, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's just little boys making little gangs here and there. But they would come around, pick on me, take my bike, beat me up. And that's where, I learned to be a little tougher. I couldn't be that sweet kid that I was wanting to stay. And people would always tell me, take care of your mother. And I want to do that. I always wanted to do that. I was her only son. I remember instantly when I moved into the neighborhood, I remember this kid, that's how it all started, actually. This kid was looking at my sister. My sister was 2.5 years older than me, so she was developing, and everything. She was about 12, 13. And he was looking at her like, And I was like, hey, that's my sister. And he was like, so what? And I was like, what do you mean, so what? Like, that's my sister. You don't look at her like that. And then, that's kind of what caused the whole, we've got eyes on you now, kind of thing. And so, yeah, when I was 12, they got a gang to kind of pick on me, and try to beat me up, threw my bike at me, that kind of stuff, took a knife out, put it to my neck, all that stuff. And then when I was 13, I kind of, from 12 to 13, I got some friends that were telling me that I need to fight back. And that's the only way that they're going to leave me alone. I was super scared. One guy was like 17 and wanted to fight me. He spit in my face. I'm talking about a loogie from deep down and right in my mouth. Not in my mouth, but like close to my mouth, yeah. Almost like Karate Kids type stuff, but I never knew karate. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to learn was karate, kung fu or something, but my mom couldn't afford it. And so anyways, I learned to fight back. My attitude came about. I started acting a little tougher at 13. To the point where, I got into not a lot of trouble, but I got into some trouble. My attitude, my mouth got me into some trouble. But it also helped a little bit with people knowing that you're not going to be able to punk that kid anymore. They would see me, and sometimes they avoided me a little bit. I did have a little bit of broad shoulders. I wasn't as big as I am, of course. I was skinny, kind of like a Bruce Lee type skinny. Not Bruce Lee skills, don't get it wrong. But I was Bruce Lee skinny, all the way. Man, I was skinny up until I was about 21, 22. And then I started gaining a little bit there, But yeah. So, so 9 years old I loved it, man. For anywhere from, when I was born to about 9 years old is what I remember to be the fairy tale. And so now when I talk about that, it's why I want to remain there. The music, the movies, the time was just awesome. And I'm not saying that anything after that was terrible and everything was awful. I'm just saying, it was just better back then. And Mom, if you're listening, I know you did your best. We had a great time together growing up. I mean, even after I was 9, of course, man, you still made it great, We had a wonderful time. My sister, my sister is mentally challenged, for those who don't know. We had some rough times, my mother and myself, with my sister. But all together, we made it work. I wasn't no easy, person to raise. My son is no easy kid to raise, and I tell you what, he reminds me of me. But I tell you what, I love my son. I love my daughter. I love, we have our times, our moments. But if my mom feels what I feel right now, I mean, the love that I feel, then I know that my mom would never, ever change any of the stuff that she went through with us. And I wouldn't either, But for the sake of the topic, that was my answer, And so I'm just going to cut it off right now and go into something else. And that's off the cuff stuff.
Hey, how was your day? Glad you could join us today. We that counts away.
So I want to acknowledge, for off the cuff stuff, National Hispanic Heritage Month. All right. And that started September 15th. And it goes all the way to October 15th. And so everybody, try to study up, look on Google, maybe find a Hispanic to celebrate. It's Hispanic Heritage Month. And Hispanics do a lot in this country, and one of my heroes is a Puerto Rican by the name of Roberto Clemente. He was a baseball player, and he's a great baseball player, and he used to do a lot for Puerto Rico, and he actually died going over to Puerto Rico, bringing supplies and helping people. So one of my heroes there. I tend to want to help a lot of people. I haven't really done what I wanted to do as far as helping people, but I try to help people in different ways. So, but acknowledge National Hispanic Heritage Month. So it goes from September 15th to October 15th. All right. And then also I want to talk about the lotto, because I've been talking about the lotto because I play it sometimes, and you don't have to play it. I just want to tell the people out there that the Powerball right now is at $238 million. And the next drawing for the Powerball is Monday, September 19th, which is tomorrow. And the Mega Millions is at $277 million. And the next drawing is Tuesday, September 20th at 11 p.m. Good luck if you do play. And also want to acknowledge Xavier and his football team. My son, Xavier, is living up to his nickname that I gave him. X Factor. The X Factor out there, man. He's getting them sacks. Well, he actually didn't get any sacks. Let me just put it that way. But he is trying his best. He's given it so much effort. He's breaking through the line. I mean, one of his teammates was telling him, man, you breaking through every single play. This is awesome. On defense. He's breaking through on defense every single play. They told him. They call him the bowling ball. And it's for a reason. It's because of the way he does a little spin. But the thing about that is I want him to concentrate more on looking where he's going and grabbing them and actually sacking the quarterback. At least, but I know he's scaring the pants off of them, and a lot of times they don't even want to. The coaches actually, I think, have to plan for him. I mean, this is a fourth grader, so I mean, it's not. I'm not going to say it's totally strategical, but I mean, I'm pretty sure the coaches are saying, "Hey, watch out for number 31 over here. He's coming." You know what I mean? So I'm pretty proud of that. They won their game this weekend. I believe it was 24-14. The second game of the season. It's 2-0 for the Hornets. Go New Lothrop Hornets. And Shay's basketball team, Shayla, my daughter, plays on a basketball team, the New Lothrop Hornets as well. They are 1-0, and their next game is Sunday. I'm sorry, next game is Monday. I'm sorry, tomorrow. So they're going to play tomorrow, and then I think Wednesday. So hopefully by the next time you hear me, they'll be 3-0. But yeah, she's over there shacking people, man. It was so cool to see her, man. She was like defensively and offensively and everything, but mostly defensively. She took that ball and just came down, and she was throwing elbows like, yeah, you ain't getting this ball. Get away from me. And it was just like, wow. I'd never seen that side of her. And her face was just like saying it all. So the next time she got the ball, man, I seen some girls step back instead of going forward. And I was like, wow. So we ain't going near number 40. She used to be 23. Now she's number 40. So, she's 7th grade. So they changed numbers on them a lot. But anyways, I had to mention that. I think that was it's so fun to watch these games, man. Basketball, softball, football, anything they do, man. Baseball. You know what I'm saying? Xavier can't wait to get back to basketball. A lot of these kids play together a lot, so they have a good rapport. These girls that play basketball, they loved getting back together from when they played softball. They were so happy, and I love seeing that. As a parent, as just a grown up, it reminds me of when I was that age and being with my friends, doing anything in school. Hell, that was my motivation to go to school, or at least part of it. And I was just talking to my daughter about that. That's part of motivation of going to school too, is seeing your friends. The fact that we didn't have phones back then made it even better, to be honest, because you had to wait to go see your friends. They think it's better to have phones, but man, I couldn't wait to go see my buddies. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, so I'm going to switch now to another segment called This or That.
Here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come. This or that. 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 This or that.
And on This or That, I got about 5 questions, and you're going to get to know me a little bit better, maybe more than you want to know me. So here we go. So, hot bath or cold shower? Well, let me tell you what I like. Big Jefe here on Off the Cuff likes a hot bath. And let me tell you, hold on a second, a hot bath, but really not a hot bath, because I haven't taken a bath. And it's going to sound nasty, but it's because I take showers. I don't take baths. But I haven't taken a bath, like sat in a bath for a long, long time. I take showers, but I don't take cold showers. I don't like cold showers. I like hot to warm. Okay, I know that's usually a female thing, and a lot of guys are like, dude, really? Yeah, man, it's just that hot, warm, feeling. I don't like cold shower. I don't know how people can like cold showers. Cold, I don't know. Anyways, so yeah. Fancy restaurant or nightclub? Okay, first of all, I am not a club person. No. Now, in the military, I used to go to clubs. I used to go to bars. I got drunk. I did all that. 18, 19, 20 years old. I used to hit on women, all this stuff. I didn't hit on women. I'm just not that type of dude. I talk to ladies, but I don't do the one-liners. So, but yeah, I used to drink. I used to go to clubs, bars. My friends used to, but most of the time, bro, I used to just chill, man. I used to just chill. But I'd choose a fancy restaurant. I'm not really in the nightclubs, man. Nah. So I do the fancy restaurant. I know my wife don't like fancy restaurants, but I definitely dress up the part. Now I do all that. I definitely do the fancy restaurant. Yeah. Go fishing or go hiking? Wow. I never gone fishing. I know that a lot of people are going to be like, what? I've never gone fishing.
Say what?
I've done hiking before. I'm not a real adventurous type person, okay? I know you ladies and men are going to think, how boring. This guy's boring. Yeah, I kind of am. So yeah, I'd go fishing before I go hiking. Even though I've never done fishing. I don't know. The reason is because hiking is work for me, and it just doesn't seem fun. Yeah, nah. So I'd go fishing. If it's cool. If it's a cool person I'm going with, I'd go fishing. Tee up or tee time? Now, I got a friend who golfs. He'd definitely tee up. I used to do tea. I used to drink tea. I've never golfed. I've done mini golf, but I've never golfed. I'm probably not a good golfer. But tea time seems British, right? I'd probably tee up with my friend Mike McGeady. That's probably what I'd do. Yeah, because he golfs and he could teach me. Yeah, I'd probably do that for an afternoon. Trains. This is the last one. Trains, planes, or automobiles? In other words, which one do you like to travel in better? Now, automobiles, believe it or not, are probably, and I'm not sure if this is true about trains, between trains and automobiles, but I know it's true between planes and automobiles, that automobiles, cars, have the most accidents. But I am definitely a car guy. I'd rather travel by car. And that's only because I'm so used to traveling by car. I don't really care for traveling by plane. And trains I rarely take. So yeah, I'm going to say automobiles. Yep. And I wish, again, like I said, man, as we come to a close, I wish that for the third week in a row that we had, Ulika and Dawn. But we will. And keep listening, please. Thanks for being with us and listening to my banter for the last 3 weeks, our banter in general. We appreciate you. We look forward to bringing you weekly entertainment here at Off the Cuff. Please continue to come back to us at youtube.com/3xchamps every Wednesday to check for new episodes. And tell your friends to like us and subscribe to us. And remember, you can always write into us about any of our topics right there on YouTube. Leave us some messages. I know Al, who did, I believe it was episode 4 or 5? He was a guest host with me. He's been leaving messages, which is awesome, right there on YouTube. I believe he's Treasure Networks. He's been leaving us messages. That's awesome. You can do that, or you can write into us at Off the Cuff Podcast if you use email. Off the Cuff Podcast at gmail.com. That's OFFDACUFF podcast at gmail.com, and DM us on Facebook at Off the Cuff Podcast, or on IG at off_DA_CUFF. Also, go to Google Podcasts, the app. We're there. Radio Public, Breaker, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. We're not available on Apple or Spotify. Remember to eat your vegetables, say your prayers, don't text and drive, drink some water. Tell your loved ones you love them. That's very important. All that good shit, man. All that good shit. And most of all, peace.